everybody is informed and on board with exactly what has occurred and the direction that we're headed. So with that, County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'm gonna start a bit where the chair ended a second ago in referencing that at times it's easy to want to pull things into a one specific instance conversation, and I have seen the sheriff doing that over the weekend at times in some of his commentary, while leaving out the broader pool in which we often swim, or the arc of many different pieces over time in which this all must be considered. And so this morning I'm going to walk you through some information I just provided in front of you. There's a few extra copies over here available as well for anyone who wants to see it, that sets a context beyond the past weekend, beyond the past 2 weeks, but also then focuses in on what we have seen recently. I've read comments about lack of partnership, lack of attention from the board, lack of care from the county, and I'm not here to form a final conclusion on that myself, other than to say I think the timeline of events and the demonstrated documentation would paint a different picture than the one sometimes depicted by the sheriff. I want to start back in 2019. We talk about cultural issues, and so there's a program service delivery notes piece here. I'm going to walk through it. There's some attachments I'll reference in the other sheet. In 2019, this board sat here as video emerged of a sheriff's office correctional officer beating Mr. Terrell Wilson while he was fully restrained at the Adult Detention Center. At the same site we're talking about now, in the same organization, under the same office, this was an incident that occurred in 2019. And in May, this county board approved a $500,000 settlement with Mr. Wilson as a part of a lawsuit that came about. Then in 2020, Sheriff's Office staff in the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office at the Adult Detention Center segregated 8 Ramsey County correctional officers of color from the floor that housed Derek Chauvin while he was in our custody. The order had been given by Superintendent Steve Leiden, who still remains employed by the Sheriff's Office today, and he has continued to have periodic involvement with decision-making at the Adult Detention Center. In the first case I referenced to you, I would point out that the sheriff ended his comments to the Pioneer Press by stating, quote, "The conduct captured on video will not be tolerated under my watch. Misconduct will be investigated expeditiously, and if personnel are found at fault, discipline will be swift and thorough." Mr. Leiden continues to have involvement with the jail up until this day and continues to be employed by the Ramsey County Sheriff's Office. Pages 1 through 8 of the attached packet summarize those 2 instances as a point of historical marker if you would like reference to them. In August of 2022, the county board then was asked to approve a $1.5 million settlement with those 8 correctional officers, stemming from the pages that I just referenced. I'm going to now be more into the current events that we're talking about, starting last September, last fall in 2022. But it is important not to detach those events or the broader events happening around us from our conversations now about care and who gets care and how care is delivered in the Adult Detention Center. This is not a one-off instance. In September and October, Administrative Director Kyle Mestad began to issue jail population memos. They came to myself and 2 of the deputy county managers, but after 3 memos, the memos stopped being issued without explanation, and regular reports from county departments, city leaders, and judicial partners, when I would ask them, what are we learning, what are we seeing on the ground about jail population numbers, all our parties noted that while they all worked together well, the Sheriff's Office was a non-participant in these collaborative ongoing efforts to reduce the population at the Adult Detention Center. So others were continuing the work without the Sheriff's Office even present for the work that they said was the top priority for them and their community. Sorry, I thought there was a memo here, but I might have missed it. There is a memo, if you would like to see a jail population memo, I can provide one. It outlines concerns about population and questions associated with it. Beginning from September through February into this year, there were collaborative efforts that I just referenced that involved the county. They involved the 2nd Judicial District. They involved the City of St. Paul. They've involved our suburban police departments. I want to thank all of these entities for their work coming to the table to address significant issues that we all agree must be addressed to avoid an overcrowding issue at the jail. The sheriff then came and committed to ongoing jail population memos. Let me go back. Those collaborative conversations occurred. Between the time of last fall and last Friday, the numbers in the jail decreased from approximately 450 individuals on an average daily count to 370 individuals on an average daily count. That is a population reduction of 21.5% during that time period without active involvement from the office that oversees the jail. Any claim that we have not been doing work through expedited court hearings, through working with the county attorney's office to be a part of those processes, through our corrections department to not make change, I would say the population is down 21% during that time. In December, the Adult Detention Center had a population workshop here with the county board. Sheriff Fletcher joined us for that conversation. At that workshop, he committed to giving specific population goals in terms of specific groups of individuals who are most likely needing to be moved out to address population challenges moving forward. We talked about mental health issues getting backlogged in the jail. We talked about low-level offenses being backlogged in the jail. These are legitimate conversations that should and did happen here around this table. There was never a follow-up based on that information of asking for where do you believe we should start. There's been no written follow-up. There's been no formal follow-up within our staff. Additionally, the sheriff committed to this board to ongoing jail population memos during that workshop. It's all a part of a recorded workshop. As far as I am aware, no commissioners, and I can speak for myself, have ever seen a jail population memo since that workshop in December. We are being told that we need to be worried about numbers and certain populations of individuals, but then not provided the information by the individual who is telling us to be concerned about the numbers and the context of those populations. And additionally, while the Ramsey County Correctional Facility continued to be raised as a proposed solution by Sheriff Fletcher, he has not on any occasion himself directly engaged in a discussion or even a request that involved the Deputy County Manager overseeing that area, Kathy Hadeen, or the Corrections Director, Monica Long, which would be a typical step of any other county department or office in a situation in which they are trying to solve a significant issue. There's been no communication from that end. Specific to this instance, so even as the population came down, concerns still came forward. In December, on December 21st, Public Health Director Sarah Holly sent a letter to Sheriff Fletcher outlining concerns about medical direction and care at the Adult Detention Center. And I want to make sure, page 19, handwritten page 19, is the email that led the packet of information that was provided. You can see it was sent from Director Holly directly to the sheriff with a number of other individuals in the county's chain of command and in the sheriff's office to ensure that this was getting the attention of the office. Concerns about medical care and treatment at the jail. Attached with that were some attachments that you would find in here, which would be a memo asking for clarity around directives given in October, a reminder about the memorandum of understanding that operated correctional health facilities within the jail. All of these documents were provided as a part of it and are included in this packet. When you go to page 21, after no response of any kind from the sheriff's office regarding Director Holly's letter, she resent that information with a memo on January 24th. And you can see, dated January 24th, the same individuals received Director Holly's message. You can see also, we asked for a response by January 27th. We received no response of any kind to any of the information that was legitimately raised in the memo and attachments. Sheriff Fletcher finally responded, So, January 27th comes and passes. Because of no responses, Ramsey County contacted the Department of Corrections to outline concerns about medical care and treatment happening in a facility in Ramsey County. There was an immediate response from the leaders at the Department of Corrections, and they showed up on site and began an investigation on January 30th, the following Monday. Sheriff Fletcher then responded in writing to the December 21st memo from Public Health Director Holly a few hours after the Department of Corrections began its on-site investigation at the Adult Detention Center on January 30th. His memo to Director Holly is on page 23, handwritten, in the packet in front of you, and leads with an accusation of slandering the department, follows up by talking about unveiling plans to find a new medical care unit to provide correctional health care in the adult detention center, and then seeks to refute the allegations raised as concerns by Director Holly earlier concerning medical care and direction at the adult detention center. On February 3rd, a few days later, the Department of Corrections outlined serious concerns that corroborated the earlier concerns raised by Director Holly to Sheriff Fletcher. I do not see that as having been slander, and I see that as correctional health staff doing their job in a very difficult environment, and I see that the Department of Corrections found third-party sources to corroborate those concerns beyond the initial letters that had been sent. All weekend, February 4th and 5th, Ramsey County staff from Public Health, Corrections, the County Attorney's Office worked on preparing potential options and clear contractual terms that would support the Sheriff's Office to comply with this Department of Corrections order that impacts the department. The first requested meeting by the Sheriff's Office to formally ask for support from the county occurred yesterday at 10:30 a.m. The report was due yesterday afternoon, with the first conversations formally occurring with Corrections later that day. An agreement to house incarcerated individuals at the Ramsey County Correctional Facility has not yet been signed by all parties as of this morning. We're close. We're hopeful that it gets signed today. It's in front of the Sheriff's Office to sign. But in the idea that the county has not been acting, paying attention, operating in a way of trying to make communication, trying to create collaborative tables for involvement, I submit this information to you to show that we will and have and will continue to do our level best to serve residents and incarcerated individuals in this community. On top of all of that, there's another dynamic that I'm not